So good evening, everyone. It's really a cold winter's day here in Johannesburg, but it's really great to be sharing with you tonight. I've got Allan Mushab from Lightbulb Education who's going to be sharing today. It's an LMS, and I, over the years, have really loved LMSs. They have been really helped me in terms of communicating with children. And the first time I used an LMS way back, it was the best thing ever. I didn't have to carry books home. And that was just amazing, that I could mark them, work with my students in the evening, and they could actually respond if they were getting the reactions then. So for me, an LMS has been a really useful tool over the years for interacting and engaging with students. And what I've seen about Lightbulb and the way you can collaborate and interact and engage, put questions on videos and all sorts of amazing things that he's going to share this evening. So Allan, I'm so excited to have you sharing with us this evening. Thank you so much for coming along and telling us about this incredible product that you have.
Thank you so much, Karen, for having me. I really do appreciate it, and I'm happy to engage with you and with the audience, and hopefully we can get some good questions and understanding about what makes a good LMS work at the end of the day. I don't know if you want me to carry on to do
yes. So tell us where. Yes.
How did it started? The background. So to be honest, it goes back to like my previous background. I worked quite a bit in. I'm an electrical engineer by trade. I worked quite extensively in telecommunications right out of varsity. It was actually during my times working in telecommunications that I would go around and see some of the technologies that we would deploy into like schools and institutions. And something as simple as a computer lab would be like set up, they'll get like connectivity to it, but then it's not being used. I saw examples of some programs where, especially in Gauteng, for instance, where there were like computer labs completely like collecting dust. Nobody's using them. There's a lot of money that's been spent on the infrastructure. There's everything sort of sitting in these cages, and when you ask, the educators, hey, you got this computer lab, what do you use it for? And nothing's happening with it. So with that in mind, I thought, it'd be great, I could probably provide, maybe they don't have access to like resources themselves, but I could use it as a medium to engage with the students who are at these schools and help them out to show them, hey, if you need any support in terms of like content or like even just like tutoring support, it would be great to have some system that can help you to do that. And that's kind of where the idea around Lightbulb like manifested. And I wanted to try and figure out how best to go about it. So that was a couple of years back, about almost 2012 was when I first had the idea, and about 2013 or so. And I wanted to try and get it implemented. I at the time tried to get it done through the companies I was working for. But my bosses and my managers at the time did not think that was something, to be focusing on. They were more focused on like the work that I was actually doing for them. Don't try to experiment, focus on kind of where you want to be. So after that, I kind of, took it upon myself to say, let me try it out, see how it goes. I, took the risk, jumped into it, and, built my first sort of iteration on the platform. Came about and said, look, I'm going to look at focusing on providing a platform for students to get access and have engagement and have feedback loops, essentially. We tested it out with a bunch of educators, especially like in the STEM. I thought STEM was quite an important field and still is at this point in time. And my first iteration of the platform that I submitted, I got a massive rejection from the educator saying, this is not going to work. And I was like, I got quite the shock. I was, oh, wow. What's wrong with it? It's like, well, you've kind of designed it the way that you would be teaching or using it. And I'm a teacher. I've got my own methodology. So I went back to the drawing board, played around with it for a bit, and then came back with a better version of the platform. And that's kind of how it's been over the years. And so if I was to just, I don't know if I could just quickly share with you a quick
I'll pop it up.
slideshow. So I'm just going to do a quick presentation. Yeah.
So, Alan, I think some of the things I've heard that people really like is how adaptable you are in terms of development when you work with people. I think that's really great.
That is true. So in fact, it happens all the time. So we've had situations with like some of the deployments that we have, whereby educators, we get feedback from them. They'll tell us, look, I want to be able to scan in all my, or like maybe they'll say that all my students only have access to like a mobile device. They don't have access to fancy devices and phones. But I want to collect all their information in a sequential manner. So we would go back and say, okay, what are you going to use it for? They'll say, oh no, for my maybe my written assessments. And what we would then do is go and develop the programs in order to do that. And that's happened quite a bit. And any sort of innovation that has an advantage to the system, we then implement. And if it's something that's global, we make it available to all the different clients. But essentially, what I wanted to just sort of highlight is how where we focused and how we started. So initially, it was primarily like a learner support service. Then we focused on tutoring support, both at the basic education level and at a higher education level. And then over time, we kind of realized we actually built a very good learning management system. And so we started providing it to companies, to tutoring companies, and so on. And after that, we realized actually this can be used for training with all the different or anybody that wants to deal with training, even corporate. Yes. So it was just an iteration and a migration to the point where we actually realized we actually have a pretty comprehensive learning management system at the end of the day. And that's essentially how the entire sort of system got put together. And we ended up with something like this, which basically highlights all the different functionalities that one would need. We focused a lot on not just having a content management learning system that provides access to content, but also that provides you the ability to communicate and engage, because feedback was important for a lot of the educators. They want to know, I'm not just sending information to a student and telling them, go read this or go watch that video, and that's the end of it. They wanted to get some feedback from them. And at the end of the day, they wanted to be able to have a full-on lesson in a virtual sense. And that's kind of what we focused on by engaging and providing communication tools in order to achieve that. So I'm just quickly going to run through a quick platform. This is an example of one. This one is used by Telkom for their STEM education purposes. And how each service runs, and it's all completely customizable, depending on whichever institution you're working with. We start off with the basic dashboard. What this dashboard does.
So why would you tell teachers why they need a dashboard? Why, as a teacher, do you need the dashboard?
So generally speaking, is to get insights on their programs. So it's about what's happening on the platform. You want to know what are your students doing, how they're engaging on it. What areas do I need to be more concerned with? Even from if it's a principal, for instance, they want to know which class are we not getting, feedback. So for instance, if I look at grade 9, there's only maybe a handful of people who are engaging. But then if you go to the grade 11s, there's a lot more engagement. So you're able to see and track and see where do I need to put some interventions in place. And that's the beauty of the analytics. But this is just at a very high level that we provide on the main dashboards. If you want more business intelligence, we do integrate with QuickSight, which basically gives you a lot more detail around what's happening within the platform, and it's completely customized and interchangeable. And here it tracks almost every activity that occurs on the platform. You're able to track and see what students did when did they do it, how often are they doing it. You can change the different types of filters that you want to track, and it's completely dynamic. So if you wanted to see how the grades are doing in comparison to others, you're able to basically put that into these sort of dynamic charts and get a lot more insights into what's going on within your particular platform.
So you're showing us an overview, and I know you said we're not going to show individual users, but you did explain the other day how a teacher can actually go in and see an individual user and also track the user. So, I mean, I think that's useful, whether you've a small school or a big school. Looking at the data of an individual child is really important. One, for the engagement with the children, for feeding back to parents. I think all of that is really important. And then if you are a school that's got funding, then you've got really good data in terms of feeding back to funders. And if you're wanting to do reports for the school, it's easy to track, get reporting information for a governing body. So using it in a range of different ways is really beneficial to the schools. And I think often as teachers, we forget about that data. And for me, that kind of data is really valuable in terms of engaging with the learners.
And you're 100% correct. So say, for instance, we wanted to track and see like how many people, and there's a lot of activities. So what we try to do is to track all the different activities that are occurring on the platform, and they're completely dynamic. It's possible for an educator to go and create different activities at any point in time based on like a particular like topic or curriculum guidance that they're trying to do. And at the end of the day, what you want is to see, okay, I want to see how many students have basically maybe watched this video, for instance, as an example, talking about like the different components which are related to the learning of a particular topic. There are other components which they want to see, for instance, in terms of like their actual understanding. So let's just say here's an example of one of our key components, which is essentially an LIC. And how that works, hopefully I'm getting to, I hope I'm not like struggling on bandwidth here, but essentially how it works is it's an interactive engagement. It works on the HTML5 package. And what you do is you just take whatever the content is and you can convert it into interactive tasks. And this can be done on literally any topic. And what you do is...
So you need to tell everybody what an LIC is, because when I saw that in your notes, I went and Googled and I thought, what is this?
So it's we had to find a phrase which worked for everybody. So basically all it means is Lightbulb interactive content, okay? Lightbulb interactive content. So it gives you the ability to put all sorts of like, interactions. It's based on an HTML5 package, and it allows you the ability to basically create different types of engagements and to help you to see whether or not individuals have actually understood like various topics. And at the end of the day, there's a whole range of different types of ways you can ask and engage on topics, and it's really key. And what's interesting about this is obviously once like an educator creates one of these items, it becomes automatic. Then the students can basically just jump on and like you can get the analysis afterwards. It's a simple creation. Once you've done it, it's a once-off. Send it out to the students. They come through and they complete it on their own. So that's one of the key aspects about the platform. And also, there's so many interesting tools. I'm just going to jump through the library side of things just to show you. So in our library, we generally have content, worksheets.
So Allan, I just want to pause you. So Craig is saying, thanks for the chat. I run online physical development program for children aged 2 to 14. And we use animation, interactive, and lots of storytelling. We're currently also experimenting with children online. I would like to hear if you could, if you have any ideas. So Craig, I think there are lots of ideas that Allan can share with you. So when he goes through what he's doing now, but also what he shows you just now with videos and interactions. So Allan, sorry, but I think explaining all the different things that you have developed in terms of Lightbulb interactive content, it's incredible. And I think there are just so many things that schools and activities can use. So, yeah.
So generally speaking, though, with regards to, so 2 to 14, I'd most likely say, if I think about like with regards to like the ECD grouping, so looking from about 2 to about, 8?
5 or 6.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, what happens in those situations, we've worked with organizations where they'll normally provide training to whoever the caregiver is in terms of like deploying like a training sort of like scenario. They'll put together maybe like a training video and ask the caregiver to go maybe cut out a piece of paper or a set of blocks and provide that information to the person in the physical sense. When you get beyond like from 6 to 14, in those cases, then you'll most likely put together like your own individual content programs, and you're able to just take whatever content you have and migrate it online and provide activities for those students at the end of the day. So it's about like, you know, using the capabilities of the platform and seeing what works for you. What I've shown you so far is a lot of the on-demand like sort of scenarios. There's also a lot of like live engagement functions. So we got like a streaming function which allows you to broadcast to people in a live environment. There's also a lot of like discussion groups, chat groups that can be put together if you want to have those sort of live engagements. So it's about using the platform to deliver on whatever sort of like curriculum or training that you're going to be initiating at the end of the day. But we normally try to see how it can help you depending on your content and your curriculum at the end, and working with you in terms of designing that. Okay, so just to give a typical example, here's an educator from one of the programs, and they were trying to figure out, okay, you know, I do these like short sessions, and what's the best way for me to sort of migrate my current way of doing things and make it digital? So we showed them, look, you can just maybe take your phone, do a quick recording on whatever topic you have, load it onto the system, and then put a whole range of questions within it. And what basically happens is that when the students get to a particular part of the question paper, they're able to then track and see whether or not they've understood the topic.
I love that. I just love that you can have the questions on the video so the students can go back, you can reinforce knowledge. I really, really love this feature.
And what's key about it is it's literally any topic. I'm talking to you primarily around like the education side of things, but like in training and development, if you're, you know, let's just say you're teaching a retail group, for instance, let's just say checkers, teach them about like COVID policies, about when people come in, make sure to spray their hands and so on. You could put together like a video package for that and have them trained on this. And by the way, because it's like, you know, low data usage and so on, most of them will be able to use their mobile devices and access the system that way. By the way, like at the moment, majority of all the users on the platform are on mobile. So I'd probably say we're sitting at about now close to 90%. But that's primarily through like the sort of Telkom initiatives. And it works very well for them, especially things such as like the live streaming. Unfortunately, there was one that just ended now. I was hoping to at least show everybody how that works. So basically, this system works very well. It can broadcast to, we've been rated to broadcast to over 1 million people quite easily, similar to how a Facebook or YouTube Live works. So you don't have the restrictions that you have with like Teams and Zoom and so on. So that's one of the key aspects. It actually came out of necessity because we're broadcasting to such a large group of people, we needed a different platform in order to do that. So we built our own sort of like engine to achieve that. And it's if you are in Telkom, it gets 0 rated. So that's one of the better parts about it. So yeah, so gosh, I don't want to go through too much. I thought I'll just give you sort of like a taste of the different sort of like functions. Trying to think, is there anything?
You want to show us some of the assessments? So you've shown us some of the questions. Have a look at some of the assessments would be great.
That'll be great. Okay, so let's look here. So we got like a range of written, multiple choice, and the interactive content. It depends on how you load it. So an example, I always try to show educators like how best to put things together. So let's just say, I don't know, let's look at a grade 12 science. It tends to be quite an extensive one. We normally just help the guys to take like a standard past paper, and we tell you, hey, why don't you just convert that past paper into a digital one? And this is like sort of the ways you can go about it. So if you were to look at this sort of CAPS paper, you'll find that this is the actual paper, and all we've done is basically changed it around into like an actual like digital one, so that you can actually track it and see how students are performing. So I'm just going to get the rest of these wrong so you can just see how that works.
But I mean, that's really cool. So you can create a question and answer paper with the closed kind of questions like that. I think that's incredible.
And also just in some cases where you have like a difficulty. So this question, the next question of this is to design like a free body diagram. So normally you'd have to draw this. So what you do is, in this case, you just think about, okay, what's the objective that you're trying to achieve? So we use a different system in order to achieve the same objective, which is to show whether or not the students understand where the different sort of forces are need to be at the end of the day. And as I said, the key aspect is to track and see, do they have an understanding of this? What's the best way to track and see whether or not they understand what's going on in that particular topic, and to collect the data? So there's different ways of asking questions, and we work with a lot of educators. So at the moment, we're working quite extensively with a group of educators from, I hope they don't mind me saying, with St. Mary's. They're working on a community development program, and they're giving us worksheets, and we're always doing a comparison between their current system, which is essentially Google Classroom, and this one, and they seem to be getting a lot of joy in working with ours as opposed to their existing one, as you can see all these new sort of functionalities that you can get at the end of the day. So we're always excited to do that.
So if you've created this kind of question, and can you set it for children or the students so that they can go back if they've made mistakes, or is there only one format option?
So it's completely up to you. So as it says, it's an HTML5 package, so you have the ability to make like a whole range of like behavioral settings. You can decide on, let's say, like show the solution. Do you want to override? Do you want to like enable retry? You can make it case sensitive if you want to, allow spelling errors, disable a whole range of things. It's really like rather intuitive. We try to make it as intuitive as possible, so it's not too complicated for people to utilize. And basically, but on top of that, we do provide support. We have one of the key benefits about the service that we provide is we try to help either the client, school, individual, and show them, hey, if you're struggling with something, you can always just jump onto one of the chats, talk to the admin, and say, hey, please assist me with X, Y, and Z, etc. And then they can assist you at any time, so to speak.
And then in terms of that, so a teacher would change those settings. They could change it for every setup. Is that right?
So yeah, it depends on you. What's the learning objective at the end of the day? Is there a pass mark? Is there, it all depends on the educator. They can decide if it's just like a practice, initiative at the end of the day. They can do that. They can utilize the platform to do those type of things. We just give guidance where we manage the platform. The educators we try to still allow them to teach or to train or wherever it is at the end of the day.
Fantastic.
Okay, I'm trying to think. Let me just go through some other examples on the chat side. So I just want to quickly just highlight some of the communication tools. You have the ability to obviously have like a start audio call. If you want to do like a standard conferencing sort of function, you can set up different groups. I think there's currently one running at the moment in this particular one. You're able to share files. There is a whiteboard available if you wanted to like have a live discussion with the students and maybe, I don't know, engage on a particular topic. They can all give responses. There's also a component for a collaborative document as well, if you wanted to share ideas about a particular topic or discussion group. So that really helps you, especially when you're dealing with live engagements.
Yeah.
So we try to do that quite a bit, especially with the live sessions. So normally what happens is that she's not. I think she was busy. No worries. I'll show that a bit later. So normally what happens is like we ask the educators if you can do like a virtual class, do your broadcast, and then you can just set up your groups over here and chat about whatever topics that you're doing. And this is all recorded as well. So if you want the recording to be available for the students, you can make that available too. And yeah, so at least it allows you to maintain the dynamic of having like a virtual class, which a lot of educators are still like struggling with, the instructor-led learning initiatives. So we say, okay, great. You can, if you want to do that and you want to stick with that, here's a tool that allows you to do that. If you do want to engage in the more content development side of things and making on-demand courses and learning paths, you can also do that as well. So we try to make it as dynamic as possible. The other components.
So Marissa's saying, if there are functions not yet on your LMS, are there options to create it as the client, or could Lightbulb innovate as the need develops?
Yeah, we're always looking for different ways to innovate. The cool aspect about this is obviously this is a lot of our own code, so we're able to adapt it and model it accordingly. So just to give an example, for instance, with the Telkom one, we had to integrate it into their billing system. So that's like a very complex system that they bought. I don't know where the vendor is from, but what they did is they just gave us like a basic sort of API, which is a application protocol interface. And what we then did is we took our code and modified it in order to facilitate that. So now if you are like a Telkom client and you can get access directly into their system, if your account is in arrears, it'll lock you out. So it'll check against that, and it's a real-time engagement. We did the same thing with Snaplify for, I think it was for tenacious tutors, if I'm not mistaken. And they basically asked us to integrate their sort of, I guess, their authentication factor. So if you're a Snaplify client, you're able to basically get into the system directly using those logins. So it all depends on who you're working with, and we have a lot of different clients, and each one of them has different requirements at the end of the day. And we try to work with them. Some guys issue out like standard certificates that they engage in, and we do that. You tell us, we'll do our best to work with you. And where it's a global service, we will work in terms of making it available. So for instance, the streaming engine came out of a result of working extensively with the Telkom group, and we now apply it to make it available to all the clients essentially. They can all get access to the streaming engine.
So Craig is asking again, could you share on Zoom and see the students? So Craig, my answer to you, I would assume, would be yes, because you would just share your screen, and if the tab is open, you would be able to share because it's web-based. But Allan, maybe you've got more to add.
Yeah, so you have options. I mean, if you're doing like the live, I could decide to share my screen. Let's do that, and maybe share like another camera. And then as I'm broadcasting, I can just switch between the cameras live and just track and see. And you have options to the different types of sharing screen. You want to do an application or you want to do the entire screen? It's completely up to you.
Yeah, I think Craig is asking if they're not, so it's live, but they're using Zoom. Could they still share the platform? And I'm assuming the answer would be yes.
Yes, they should be able to. It's completely dynamic. I mean, if you're gonna, whatever content that you're displaying, you'll make it available afterwards.
Yeah, like now.
Yeah, like now, exactly. So if I wanted to share, I think I'm sharing the whole screen. I'm not sure.
Yes, we can see your tabs.
Yeah, as they're going up, it pops up exactly. So it's the same sort of structure. Are you able to link and integrate other platforms? You, to a certain degree, it depends on what security protocols are being initiated. We would need to understand if there is like an API function available, and then we will basically go through it with the developers and see how to integrate directly. So
so I mean, like Google, there would be APIs that you could use, and I'm assuming the other platforms would be the same. But you just mentioned something which I want to ask you about. So you spoke about security protocols. Please talk about the security and because it's a closed system. So if you want to speak about that, please.
So I think you're referring primarily to like the chat side of things. So basically, this unit it's like a closed environment. So anybody who is part of this particular group, those are the only people that get to communicate. So this is a school, for instance. So instead of like having WhatsApp groups as an example, this is a closed system. So any communication that occurs over there is within the boundaries of who's authorized to do so. So people can talk to each other, but it's monitored. So you have full oversight of what's going on. So this generally works very well for institutions or organizations. And it also gives you that level of reassurance that if it's a parent, they don't have to be worried about their kids getting unsolicited messages from random people. Anybody, all the people who are part and parcel of this group are able to communicate effectively, and you can set up the groups in that fashion. There's no restrictions on the group, so you don't like have a limit of 250 people. If you want to give one to the entire class or organization, you can do so. And yeah, so those are some of the key benefits. And obviously, just like the higher level infrastructure security, we work quite extensively with some of the vendors that we work with. So Amazon, for instance, we do a lot of integrity checks as much as possible, ensuring that everything is up to scratch and up to date, essentially.
That's great. How difficult or easy is it for a child to log in? So what is the process if you've got users? So how do they log in?
So basically, we normally start off with like a standard URL. We'll normally design it based on, like, we can also customize those URLs to the different schools, and we can identify where they want it on their particular website, or if it's like a Facebook page or whatever it is, we will work with them and make sure that there's a link available. Once they get there, it's quite easy. They just normally have like a username and password. And then on top of that, should they obviously want to take on the additional support services, there is we have these sort of like agents available who can support the client at any time. Basically, it all depends on how they want to get support in that sense. But yeah, and then we also have integration into WhatsApp itself, because I know like a lot of students don't have emails. That tends to be the biggest problem. So we integrated WhatsApp in there. So at least if let's say you forgot your password or you need help, you can just your number, and the system will automatically send you a notification, essentially.
Oh, that's really easy. And then teachers, I suppose, would be something similar, but they'd have more admin rights.
Yes. So so the average teacher basically would let's just go. So generally speaking, what the teachers have is access to like the creation. So there are three types of users on the platform. There's your administrators, the students, and whoever's an instructor or tutor and so on. And basically what they do is they have the ability to create content onto the platform and to monitor the results, or like also to add like marks to students, essentially, if that makes sense. So so what generally happens is that we normally start off by just showing them where the different tools are, how to create courses, how to create learning paths, and how to use the library. Oh, sorry, I logged myself out here. Sorry. So generally speaking, the most difficult aspect about this whole thing is just creating an LIC. We'll show most educators how to do it. And generally speaking, they tend to go on their own. I'll be honest with you, we had a training with the one group of teachers, educators, was it last week Saturday? And I was so surprised when a handful of them already created courses. I was like, oh, wow, that's like, that shows. And that training was, what, 30 minutes? Essentially, there is an automatic training available, but if you still want us to do like this sort of engagement, we're able to do that with you and show you how everything works. But generally speaking, you get to these sort of tools where you have like options for like interactive video, question set, flashcard, and so on. If I was to just give you a quick example of like how that works, there's like an example of here which shows you how that could work essentially. And if you want to use it, you basically just select it. We generally ask you to select where it needs to go. So in this case, let me just use one of these, and let's do that. And let's put it into general. And you can just decide if it's like a maths thing. So let's say it's like grade 7, and you wanted to add it to natural sciences, you can do so. Whatever subject it is, you're able to attach it to those particular groups. So in this case, I'm just going to add it to this one over here, and let's do general. I'm just showing you how quick and easy it is for this. I'm just going to do like a demo video. Let's say video. And then I'm going to let's just grab a video from YouTube just to give an example. Sorry about this.
No worries. This is great. So it's really easy and sort of drag and drop and choosing points. And so once you've understood the layout, it's really not that complicated. And if you've been using other platforms, there's lots of similarities. So you'll be able to pull out the similar kind of thinking.
Exactly. So just to give a typical example, so here's one of those videos, and I'm going to like add in here like a true and false. So I'll ask you to pause the video at that time. I want it to pause exactly at that time. I don't want the button to be there for that much longer.
Yeah.
And then I just give it a label, and I'm just going to say true or false. And then what's the question? We are in South Africa. Okay, and that's true. I'm going to say done. That's the first one. Then I maybe want to go to like a fill in the blanks option. Do the same thing. Let's stop it exactly at that time. Pause the video. Fill in. Let's start like that. And I'm going to say, okay, let's just say.
What color shirt are you wearing?
So in this case, I'll put a fill in the blanks. I have to put the full statement. So I'm saying the color, shirt I'm wearing. Ooh,
so that you would leave white out, yeah?
So I'd go, no, in this case, I'm selecting it to be blue. So basically what's going to happen now is, and then I can just say, do I want, let's just make it case sensitive. Let me just make it capital. And then make that case sensitive, and I want to get it correct. So I don't want to put spelling, minor spelling errors. Let's do that. And so I'm just going to create this quickly. And so then now when I play the video, it'll get to these parts and it's going to ask me a question. I'm going to say, let's just say false as an example, and then go through the next one and fill in, and I'm going to say red. Okay, and you can see what the answer is. And then just submit my answers at the end of the day. So that's as simple as that. Now, if I go into the back end, it'll pick up all my results. And if I want to get more detailed environment, I can come into these sort of like systems whereby I can pull up analytics on like how the system works and like the questions and how quickly did I get the question right, what did I get wrong, and so on. So let me just give you another example of that. Let's look at this course now.
That is so intuitive and really user-friendly.
No, exactly. So you're able to go and track and see, different, like, okay, how many people have done different courses. There's so much information, so much data that you can collect at the end of the day. And you have the ability to, filter based on users, based on programs, whatever they're doing. So if I want to see how many people have gotten a particular topic right, you're able to go and like play around. And all these are customizable, by the way. We always get a lot of educators asking us, I want to check these insights, like what is the average percentage of students failing trig in grade 10, for instance, or in the sort of corporate side, how many people have failed a policy document on COVID or health and safety, things like that. Yeah. So there's a lot of different options. It's all about engaging and trying to see what works and what, how best to use the platform in order to deliver the education that you require.
So if you had to think about your platform, what do you think makes your platform truly different to other LMSs?
So one of the key aspects is obviously the ability for us to integrate. We can easily customize the platform to suit the various clients' requirements. We try to tailor it as much as possible. And on top of that, providing the support services as well in terms of ensuring that they can actually like achieve the goals that they set for themselves. And also like just innovations. We heavily focus on innovating. Anytime there's like a new or a better way to improve the service, we really spend quite a lot of research and development in terms of ensuring that we stay ahead of the game. Innovations, which like I do know, like a lot of the European and North American competitors haven't really thought about. But that's also because we live in a very challenging environment, so to speak. Things such as like restrictions in terms of like data costs. We focus on understanding those constraints and trying to see how best can we adapt in order to ensure that we can still deliver service to the people? We know, for instance, in the South African and African context, majority of people don't have access to like high-end tablets and computers and so on. Majority of them are going to be working on mobile devices. These mobile devices are most likely going to be at the lowest end of the scale in terms of their performance and the ability to function in this environment. So we try to think about those aspects when we're doing the designing of the different components that we're utilizing. And we look where we can't, we try to find a way to optimize as best as possible and to try and see how best we can ensure that we deliver a service that's worthwhile and makes a difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, Allan hasn't shown us, you haven't shown us in an example today, but the other day he was showing me how amazing and easy it is on the cell phone. It's just incredible. Oh, yes. And it's so user-friendly. And he's referred to it a few times. So Allan, thank you for sharing that, how the majority of the users are on cell phones, and yet it's so easy for them to answer the questions and to engage. And for me, I think that just makes it really, really special. And on top of it, that it's a closed system, so schools can be using this instead of something like a WhatsApp. It can be customized learning and really effective. So you share the link for the students to hop in perhaps with their WhatsApp, but once they're in, it's, you said the Telkom one 0 rated, is that right, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, if you do require, unfortunately, Telkom SIM or like be part of their network, and you will get the 0 rating factor, which is really helpful. Yeah. Generally speaking, I don't know if I should be, I'm happy to plug for them. You can easily get a SIM card from them. The only issue is you must get a RICAD, unfortunately. The RICA process, but I think even like an institution can also get a bulk RICA sort of package, but there's got to be some sort of like person responsible for those SIM cards, essentially. But after that, yeah, you should have access for free. Well, 0 rated anyway.
So I just want to say thank you so much for sharing with us this evening. It's been really incredible. I think the platform is amazing. That it's been built in South Africa is even more incredible, and we should be shouting it from the rooftops. I really think that it's the kind of solution with the way it's customizable and adaptable can really be used by all sorts of schools in all sorts of different scenarios, and even higher education institutions. So I really think, and like you said, you're corporate, so anybody could be using the platform because it's just so adaptable. So as we end off, Allan, what are your final words?
Gosh, well, I've been trying to think about this for a while now. I'm like, well, I guess at the end of the day, it's just we really want to just like put forward that there's a lot of good innovations which is pretty much STEM locally, which a lot of people are not pretty much aware of. And yes. Yeah, I always tell people, if you want us, let's benchmark against like our North American rivals, and let's see what we can do. I'm more than happy if we say, if it doesn't work for you and maybe they have, I'm happy to say, great, no problem. But at least, I want the opportunity to test and try and show the capabilities. That's the idea at the end of the day. I always try to push that forward and say, cool, let's benchmark. Let's see what they can do. Let's see what we can do. And yeah, I'm happy to have that conversation. That's one of the things I really want to push forward.
So that's fantastic. I really want to say thank you for your time this evening, and for Malandi for sharing and chatting on the chat. Thank you to everybody who was watching this evening. I really hope that you found it beneficial. I really did. So thank you, everyone. Good night. I'm going to end the call. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.